There's a pretty fun topic that I want to cover today, and it has to do with going back to the basics. So this video is for new Arcana players who are new to raiding in Lost Ark, and I want to talk about how they can get started learning how to do damage in raids. Okay? The goal is this video will provide you some foundational ideas to how you approach a Legion raid or a boss fight, a Guardian raid as well, and start learning how to do damage and looking for areas to improve and also understanding when you do well. So with that, let's jump right in. We got the notepad open so you guys can follow along as I talk about this topic. But let's get started. There are two main tasks for somebody who's raiding in Lost Ark, okay? If you're doing a boss fight, there's two big things in terms of dealing damage that you have to watch out for. The first thing is what your character needs to do in the next few moments. What does my character do to do damage? So in the case of Empress Arcana, this will be stacking up to 4 stacks and then using your Ruin skill, right? That's generally what Arcana is looking to do. And then the second thing that's just as important is, what is the boss doing? There's a lot of attacks that the boss might be doing that would allow you or disallow you to use your moves. Things that will make it so that you can't get into the range that you need to be, or it's too risky to attack because you risk dying yourself if you do so. Let's look at some examples. Again, for Empress Arcana, the general concept is we want to stack up to 4 stacks, and then we want to use our Ruin skill. So as an example, let's look at the combo of Scratch Dealer, Call of Destiny, and a Ruin skill. Okay? So this timing of these abilities and how long it takes for you to use Scratch Sealer, Call of Destiny, and a Ruin skill, this is something that you should always be keeping in mind when you're raiding. With this basic combo and the timing in mind, we can try to apply this to a fight, okay? So whenever there is an opening, I might use some combination of these skills, resulting in a fully stacked Ruin skill landing at the end of the combo, right? Again, Scratch Dealer, Call of Destiny, Ruin skill. So, for example, if we look at this VOD here of me doing Kungalenium, I'm going to try to use a combo of Scratch Dealer, Call of Destiny, and Ruin skill on the boss, but I have to also make sure that I avoid the attack. First of all, there's that orb that dropped down that I have to run away from. If I get hit by this orb, I get frozen. Second off, Kungalenium is activating an attack where he's tracking me, and he's going to do a cone breath in front. And so I know that it's going to be hard to get the timing right on using that combo. Once I know that I have enough time to execute that 3-part combo, I use Scratch Dealer, Call of Destiny, and a Ruin skill. Kungalenium is a pretty slow-paced fight, so there's a lot of opportunity for you to practice these concepts. As you see him winding up to do a move, or when you recognize the move that he's actually doing, you can respond appropriately, decide if you have enough time to use your basic combo, and then go from there. So as another example, again, we're looking for what Kungalenium is doing, right? That's number 2 of our 2-point process. We identify that he's going to do a front slam in front of him, and so we use our spacebar to get to his side to avoid the hitbox of his attack. And now we know because he's busy doing the front slam attack and we're not in the way of the hitbox, we can go forward with our 3-part combo, Scratch Dealer, Call of Destiny, and Ruin skill. So this is obviously a very basic example, right? With a very small part of the Arcana combo, just that 3-part combo. But we can apply this to a bunch of different moves that you might encounter when you're raiding in Lost Ark. There are a few things that might affect your ability to make the right decision. And in order to develop that feeling, you can either have a good sense of the timing that is available to you. So maybe it's not just about Scratch Dealer, Call of Destiny, Ruin skill. Maybe it's about using 2 spiral edges and then using your Secret Garden or something like that. There's different timings to each of these different skills that you're using in the fight, and having a good feeling for how these timings play out and what your window of opportunity is given what the boss is doing is going to help you make these decisions. And then the second thing that's really important is trial and error. Part of when you're learning a fight, what does it mean to learn a fight in Lost Ark? It's about trying to see if you have enough time during a particular move or during a different move, right? Do you have enough time to use Scratch Dealer, Call of Destiny, Ruin skill, and then maybe 2 spiral edges and another Ruin skill on top of that? Or do you only have time for one ruin skill? Or maybe you don't even have enough time to use your ruin skill and you find that out during the course of the fight when you're progressing it. There's a lot of things that could change your timings on how you respond to a particular move that the boss chooses to do based on the circumstances of the game. So it's not exactly the case that every single time a boss does a particular move, you have the same exact response, right? There's a lot of circumstances that can change this. Some of them might be that you're in a different position when the boss started a move. If you needed to be melee range, but you're way far away and the boss did a move where you normally have a window of opportunity, because you're not in melee range, maybe you can't get started on the timing window that you need, and you get there late, and then you can't actually get your full combo off, right? So this could be one factor that confuses things. The boss could be doing a move that you know you can respond in a certain way, but because it's targeted at you, or maybe because it's not targeted at you, it's facing a different way, you have to respond slightly differently, and so that changes your ability to respond in the way that you wanted to. Another that can happen quite often is that, let's say you're trying to go for a Scratch Stealer Call of Destiny Ruin skill, and you see the window of opportunity, a boss does a move that you know you have enough time to use this 3-part combo, except the cooldown of those abilities aren't quite ready yet, and so you don't actually have that window of opportunity anymore because the time you needed was already elapsing, but you couldn't go because you were on cooldown. And then finally, maybe the more obvious one, is that sometimes there are just other important mechanics that you need to make sure that you do. So even if the boss does something that gives them an opening to be attacked, maybe you need to be standing in a particular place, or maybe it's just that you want to play it safe and make sure that you complete a mechanic. So these things can all be factors that affect your ability to make similar decisions in the game. There's so many branching details about the circumstances of the fight that might change your ability to push a window of opportunity or do damage when you think you should be able to. Really, kind of what I want to say is that improving your performance comes with, one, experience with your class, right? So you know the optimal things to do on your class at every point in time. And then two, your experience with the boss. So each time you go into a new boss fight, you're kind of relearning half that experience, right? Just because you're really, really good at understanding your class and what you need to do doesn't mean that you'll be performing at top capacity when you get into a new boss fight, because there's new timings that you need to learn, and there's new openings that you need to learn to identify. So as you're playing the game, I wanted to add a section that helps you get an idea for what improving looks like and what the trajectory looks like, right? So let's add another layer to get a more complete picture of what this decision making might look like when you kind of are looking to optimize your class a little bit more. So in my setup, I use a Raid Captain engraving. And what that engraving does is, based on my movement speed, it gives me more damage. So the Scratch Stealer Call of Destiny Ruin skill combo is really good because it sets up my Raid Captain, it puts the Arcana crit synergy on, and it activates the crit damage self buff that Arcanas have. All three of these things are key factors in making sure that I'm getting the most damage out of my Ruin skills because it's activating the most damage multipliers. What this means, however, is there might be some portions of my damage that would be missing if this combo is broken up. So let's look at that. Scratch Stealer's movement speed for Raid Captain only persists for about 4 seconds. So if you look in game at the third tripod here for Scratch Stealer for safety device, it says that my attack speed and my movement speed are increased for 3.7 seconds. So that's the actual window that I have to harvest the benefits of that increased movement speed. And you can see when I use it, this buff shows up, safety device. And now it's gone, right? So I have to make sure that I'm finishing the combo within that window. That's not the only skill that has a window of time where I have to move in. Call of Destiny gives me a crit damage buff, and this only lasts for about 3 seconds. So again, if we jump into the game, the second tripod for Call of Destiny, it says Dark Destiny. On hit, my crit damage is increased by 70% for 3 seconds. Okay? So when I actually use this skill, you can see that this buff shows up for a 3-second window of time. So now there's 2 windows of time that I have to operate under to make sure that I'm getting maximum damage when I use this combo. So let's say there's a situation where I'm unable to finish the combo within 4 seconds. I use Scratch Stealer, and I can't actually use Call of Destiny and the Ruin skill within the 4 seconds after I started my Scratch Stealer. I could be losing damage, due to the buffs falling off, right? If I went a little bit too early and my window of time wasn't exactly right, let's say I used Scratch Dealer and then a boss had some kind of move where I now needed to back away, now my combo is broken up. If 4 seconds elapses, then I will actually be losing the movement speed portion of my combo. And due to the fact that I'm running that Raid Captain Engraving, I'm not doing max damage anymore. However, it's not always the case that when your combo is interrupted, that you're going to lose that damage, right? If the breaks in the combo are less than 4 seconds, then I might still be able to proceed. So this gives me the ability to make more complicated decisions if I know a move is coming up, but I know that I can dodge the move in less than 4 seconds, so I can use Scratch Dealer, avoid the boss's move, use Call of Destiny, and then use my Ruin skill. I might still be able to get full damage on the Ruin skill if that was within the 4-second window after I use Scratch Dealer. So just to get a feel for how much time I actually have in game, let's try to emulate that, right? I use Scratch Dealer, I can run around, Call of Destiny Ruin skill. And as you would notice, my buff was still up. Let's do that again to get a feel for the timing. If I use Scratch Dealer, let's say I use spacebar to dodge away and I run a bit, I use Call of Destiny and my Ruin skill, everything is still landing in that buff window. And so I can make slightly more complicated decisions. Not just if I have one clear exact window in the boss fight. Sometimes I can use Scratch Dealer, dodge something, use Call of Destiny and the Ruin skill, and my combo would still not be ruined. So again, these are just small examples of how you could begin learning what you need to do in a raid. And kind of this awareness will help you identify mistakes and realize what you can do to optimize or improve your performance in the future. So I would ask these questions. Did you misread the boss's move? And then that might have led to you getting hit. Did you go too early or too late in the window? It may have caused you to miss skills or have to be interrupted depending on the circumstance. Did you underestimate how much time it would have taken you to execute a full combo, right? Maybe you thought you could go for the Scratch Dealer Call of Destiny combo, but you actually didn't have enough time, and so you made it through Scratch Dealer and Call of Destiny, but you couldn't end up using your Ruin skill, right? As you can identify these things, these can go an incredibly long way in every single boss fight in Lost Ark for improving your performance. If it's a Guardian raid, if it's a Legion raid, even if it's synced content. Looking even further into the future, with more experience, you'll be able to make even more complicated decisions. So there's a bunch of things that are really fun, I think, about the Arcana class that can be decision-making opportunities for you in a boss fight. This could include your cards, your synergies, your engravings, as I mentioned with Raid Captain, putting yourself in boundless mana once you have your relic set, and then using the movement aspects of Scratch Dealer and Spiral Edge to simultaneously avoid attacks while putting stacks on. This can cut your calculation for the timing down because you're both avoiding the attack that you may have originally needed to avoid, but now you can kind of like do two things at one time, cutting down, improving your efficiency, sorry. Maybe you know that there are certain ranges that are unavailable to you at certain amounts of time, so you reorganize your abilities to account for the appropriate ranges at the appropriate times in the boss fight. I would say that if you really look into it, this is where a lot of the creativity of Lost Ark fights come out. There's an immense amount of decisions that you can make, and there's so many different circumstances, even in the same fight. Like I said, depending on the positioning, the timing, your cooldown, there's so many circumstances that just change the calculation. It's not as simple as I can always do this thing for this thing, because maybe the circumstances are a little bit different. So hopefully, if you're a new player, hopefully that was helpful to you, just as kind of like a very, very early primer for if you're playing Arcana and you're now ready to get into the boss fights, right? You're starting to think about, okay, I'm going to try my first Vaulted or something like that. Did you find this helpful in giving you some confidence for looking out for what you need to do to actually improve in the raid? I'd like to know. If you think there might be some other thing that's holding you back from trying to do Vaulted in terms of a gameplay execution kind of thing, let me know. I'm curious. What can help you become more comfortable stepping foot into Legion raids? We have Belshazzar coming up really, really soon, and that's super exciting. Hopefully there's a lot of new players jumping in and getting into the game, and I want to provide you guys with at least a very basic video to get started. That's about all I have for you guys today. I wanted to make a video because I feel like I haven't done one of these in a long time, just addressing some of the basics, the really foundational stuff for playing Arcana. So again, let me know if this is helpful to you. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments. Thanks, guys.